Hello, I'm Regina McCann Hess, President of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, I have a new friend with me. And Lauren, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Yes, thanks, Regina. I'm so happy to be here with everybody today. Wow, what I love about what I do and what I do. My journey has been a winding road. I always like to say that. I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, the journey is never quite linear. It takes twists and turns, and just I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I grew up in a dealership family, a lot of time in the automotive industry earlier in my life, and very early in my career, and then my path just shifted. It shifted to working for a REIT for quite a number of years, and really just starting in sales and marketing, making cold calls, starting at the bottom and then just working my way through the ranks there. And when I left, I was the COO, the acting COO. So that was just
Oh,
an amazing experience. And then I went on to help build a couple other startups. And then I decided, hey, you know what? I want to be on the other side of this. I want to start my own consulting company. And that's when StoryWork was born. So StoryWork started about 8 years ago. And our tagline is always define your story, make it matter. And so that encompasses a lot of different areas. So within that, we really cover leadership, working with leaders and CEOs and their teams to truly understand who they are and walk in it. That's what we say really simply. I call that identity-based strategy. And then how does that translate into marketing and how they're communicating with the world and how they're putting themselves out there? And especially in our environment today, that is becoming increasingly important, as I think people are just becoming really skeptical about any kind of messaging in general and anything that feels forced. And so my job is just to really help them create true authenticity in their leadership and in the way that they convey themselves to the world. So I love what I do. I have so much fun doing it, and it's just great also to be able to be flexible in my own work schedule.
that's awesome. I love that. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there. I don't even know where to start. Well, first of all, like the automotive industry, like talk about like I think I'm in a male dominated industry, but oh wow, that's a male dominated industry, right?
Yeah, it definitely is, and it can be for sure. And growing up, that was just like I didn't know any different, so I just got used to it. I mean, my mom also worked in the dealerships alongside of my dad there, so I think she was really kind of more at the forefront of that, especially. That was 80s, 90s we're talking, so things were even different then, and
Mhm.
yeah, it was a pretty incredible experience. So I think I just kind of, it's almost like I didn't even notice it. It was
Mhm.
like it's just how I knew to operate, and I think that's
Yeah.
really helped me as I've grown my own business because I just don't see it as a setback. Like I
Yeah.
just not even on my radar. It's like,
Yeah.
hey,
So your training grounds.
yeah,
It's
what?
very
You're
cool.
so right. It was the training ground, and I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're using all that experience to now go help other people, which I love. First of all, like I'm a huge believer in coaches, and you may not refer to yourself that way, but I see it as you're going to coach me to be better and my company better. But I love when a coach is actually coaching something that they've done, that they've been successful at, and are helping other people. Because in my industry, the financial industry, there's tons of coaches out there, but there's not many of them who've actually sat in my seat and done the job. So you have. So tell us about like how you're pulling those experiences into how you're helping your clients.
Well, that's so true. And I have to say, you can look at that and listen to that whole blurb of, the different things that I've done and say, "Oh, wow, that looks really great." But underneath that is also a lot of failure and a lot
Mhm.
of trial and error and a lot of mistakes. And I've had failure at the like being a part of companies that have failed, and also just personal failure. And so I would say that a really important part of it is just being able to recognize that and also use that as fuel to say, hey, this is what I saw as I was a part of either like a corporate, a larger failure, or a personal failure. And this is where I would recommend that you don't do that. Like, don't do what I did. And I think it's just as important to say, like, don't go that way as it is to talk about what works or what's successful. And the truth is, I'm still learning so much, even through the clients that I serve. Like, I am learning from them every day and really using that in real time to adapt and adjust how I might advise them. So I think that it's also like a lot of people, maybe don't want to admit that, like we don't have it all figured out though. And I think that's
No.
the beauty. And I think part of the key is being able to discern, as you're moving for your client and on your client's behalf, and adjust quickly to be able to help them in real time. And I think that's becoming more and more important in our environment today.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I love that you pointed out that you've had a lot of failures because I think and I believe, and I know the statistics show you learn more from your failures than you do your successes because those are hard lessons to learn a lot of times.
They are. Yeah, they
Yeah.
definitely are. And I think, it's a humbling experience when, you pour yourself into something and it doesn't work or it doesn't go the way you planned. And just looking back, I can see that I think the main theme that I've taken from that is continue to show up. Like, you can fail or you can be a part of something that fails, but it's how you recover from that that makes all the difference. And it's just the ability to take the time sometimes to actually grieve that failure or a loss in some way, but then to reinvent yourself. Like, how do I want to change? How do I want to shift coming out of this? And then go do that thing. And it's really hard because it takes a lot of courage. Like, it takes time, like after getting knocked down, right? Over and over again, which some can feel for sure, whether that's in your work environment or whether that's in your personal life. And so it's just that ability to cultivate that resilience to be able to get back up and put yourself out there in a different and better way. And if you think about our lives, like, we do that over and over and over again, right? So we can either stay stagnant from that failure and say, you know what, I'm just going to play it safe and I'm going to kind of retreat back from it. Or we can say, no, you know what, I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to really look at what I can take ownership of, what I can learn from that. And then I'm going to get back out there.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's brilliant what you're saying. I mean, it's just, just get up and you keep going and you learn from it. And if you don't learn from it, then that's a problem.
Yeah, it
And
really
then you
is.
are just staying still and everyone's just going to keep bypassing you.
Yeah. And for some, I think for some that's okay. And for some, we're satisfied with that. I just have never been a person that's been able to be satisfied with that. So, and sometimes that can be a detriment, because I can overdo it on that end of, like, thinking through things and evaluating and examining. But, I think there's this great balance that I think is coming to pass, especially when I think about like the years since COVID and how people are operating and slowing down a little bit more. I think there's this great balance of giving yourself time to almost like go into the cave, for lack of a better term. Like, work kind of, maybe you're just keeping a baseline right now
Hmm.
because you're really trying to recover from the last season. And then there's a time to come out of that and say, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to
Yeah.
fully get back in the game. And so, I also think a big part of it is recognizing where you are, like recognizing what season or stage that you're in, because that can also
Right.
help you process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have a certain niche, like a certain type of industry or client that you work best with, or you more broadly based?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get this question a lot, and I really don't actually.
Mhm.
It's all over the board.
Okay.
So if I look at like the my previous client roster throughout the years, it has been every single industry that you can imagine. And I attribute that to the fact that we really practice what I call identity-based strategy. And that simply is just really taking into account who the person is, what is the origin story of the company? Like, who is the company? And
Hmm.
what do they need to tell people based on that? Or how do they need to lead based on that? And so that I think really allows us to be industry agnostic because we're really
Okay.
just looking at the people that we're serving. It's all about the people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, those are great, great help to people. I mean, I know you always have to be learning. It's not like when you graduate college, you're like, oh, cool, I'm done.
Yeah.
No, no. And I know I've been in my industry for, we'll just say over 25 years, and I'm still constantly learning. Just, you can't stay stagnant. Um, you actually, there's a book called Who Moved My Cheese,
I've heard of
that
that.
talks about change, and how you have to kind of roll with change, and you have to be willing and open to change, to navigate life, because you're not going to be successful in life if you're not.
That's so true. And, I think there's a lot there in even just navigating change. Like, if just to unpack, there's a lot there in terms of thinking about the first step is just recognizing that change. Like, okay, this is happening. Because if we don't even recognize it, it's not on our radar, then we can't even know how to adjust based on that. So it's
Right.
just really taking the time to recognize like this is happening, right? And so I talk about this like bringing things from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind. Because then when we move it up to our conscious mind, we can say, okay, I know this is happening. Based on that, what do I want to do? How am I going to navigate this change? But sometimes there's even an in between step that is recognizing any kind of block that might stand in the way of you even figuring out how you want to handle that change. So the block can be fear, it can be, a trigger of some sort, right? Standing in the way. And so what we want to do is figure out, well, how do I clear that block? And
Yeah.
then as a result of it, now how do I move forward strategically and in a healthy manner to adjust to that change? So
Yeah.
there's so much there in navigating that change. And I think, what we don't give ourselves credit for is how much we probably do this all day, every day in different ways. Like, it can be a small thing or a big thing, but I think those small changes throughout the day can kind of slip by almost without us realizing how much work and processing we're doing, especially with the speed of our digital communications these days.
Yeah.
Think about
Yeah.
the amount of information we have coming at us to process.
It's like a fire hose constantly.
It is. Yeah. Especially in your industry too. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many, there's news, there's regulation, there's things to process. How do you adjust? All of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I love how you spoke about, working on handling the roadblock, like the fear or the imposter syndrome that I'm sure a lot of people you work with have to overcome. Um, because that prevents, us from doing the majority of what we need to do is the fear. And one of my friends, and I'm sure he borrowed the phrase from somebody else, but I now use it all the time. And he's like, eat the frog. It's like
Hmm.
in the early in the morning when you're first starting your workday, eat the frog, do the task or make the call that is going to be your hardest call, your hardest action item for the day, and get it over with so that it's not just building inside you and that anxiety is building inside you. Get it done, get it over with, eat the frog.
That's so good. Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like I've heard something or similar to that effect. It's such a good reminder though, because when you say that, I think about managing our energy and, your energy even throughout the workday can vary so much from, when you start at 7, 8, 9 a.m. to
Yeah.
2 p.m., which is like sleepy time for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
I get like, I need a break. I need to get up and walk away. And so if you save your like eat the frog for that time of day, you're not going to feel ready to do that. So
no,
it's so true that like starting with that thing in the morning in the beginning of the day is can just be a game changer. And think
for
about
sure.
if you did that one thing every day at the start of your day, how much more effective you might be.
Yeah, yeah. I think I know what our action item is now. So tell us, like, if people want to learn more about what you're doing and want to follow you, how do they find more information about you? Where do they go?
Sure, sure. So we're on all the social channels, but if they want to, there's two sites that they can go to. So the first is storywork.co.co. So
Mm,
that's my company and that's the coaching and consulting company. And then I have a book coming out. It's coming out like literally any day as we
good.
record this. It's called Seen, Known, and Heard and How It Changes Everything. And it comes out with a workbook. And so they can find that on laurencShippy.com. So those are
Cool.
the things. Yeah, we have
That's awesome.
it's exciting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work. I
It,
know where you're going through.
it's a
Been there,
lot of
done
work.
that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, that's so awesome. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm so
Like,
exhausted.
oh, this feels like my third child. That's what this feels like.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. I said to people, because my book, we had some problems like with the publisher or whatever. So we had to switch publisher. So I
Oh,
was
wow.
like, I was pregnant for 2 years with this book. I was so glad when it went live. I was like, oh, thank God it's out.
Done. Right.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we're
Well,
ready.
yeah,
Definitely ready.
that's exciting. I'm so excited for you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yay. All right, so that's cool. So I know you've done a lot in your career. Do you have any, challenges that you have faced as a professional woman that you want to share?
That's a really good question. I think there are always challenges in different seasons. But I do think as a woman, sometimes you really have to do the extra legwork to be given that credibility. So I would say that I think, in my career, I've found that I've got to do the extra homework, I've got to do the extra preparation, I've got to show up sharp on time, no, like being, bringing my A game. And I would say that I could view that as a detriment, but I also view it as a positive because it's allowed me to sharpen my tools so
Yeah,
that I can actually outperform, right? Versus anybody else in the game. So,
awesome.
I would say that's been the challenge probably.
Well, it's good. It's a great way to handle it, though. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, and I know we'd have to take a time machine for this, but if you are thinking about retirement, what is your vision of retirement?
Oh, this is That's such a funny question for me because I don't think I will ever really retire. This type of work and creating new things fuels me. So I think in some way I will continue to do that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I'll definitely have more time for enjoyment and hobbies and things of that nature, but I think I'll always be a creator of new things for sure.
Uh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, and everyone's vision's different. And that I love asking that question because I get so many different answers and versions and it's really cool. And then I start thinking about it too. I'm like, how, mine changes a lot, as the years have gone on, mine has changed, but I have, like you, a long way to go before it comes
Yeah,
to fruition. So different visions of retirement as well. So it's kind of cool.
that's a cool question.
Yeah. Well, it's always fun to daydream a little bit, right? Like, um, I don't play the lottery, but every once in a while when you get to that Powerball that's like, I don't know, 500 million, I'm like, oh, you got to play one. And then I usually forget. But then I start daydreaming, what would I do? You know?
Yeah,
So it's
that
kind
was
of like
tomorrow.
that. Is that tomorrow? I don't even know. See? Oh God. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. I appreciate you, and I think what you're doing is fabulous and so well needed.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Regina. It was just great to be with you.
Oh, thank you. Hey, and our action item today is eat the frog or just do your hardest task first in the, at the start of your day, whatever time of day that is. Just start with your hardest task so that you, like Lauren said, have that energy throughout the day or you don't have negative energy building. So that is our action item for today. And with that, I also want to thank you for joining us and spending some time with us. I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. My website is forgewealth.com, and you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Forge Wealth. And LinkedIn is Regina McCann-Hess. Go make it a great day.